welcome to this edition of Coffee is for Closers. As always, I'm your host, Tim Brigham, and with me today is a real estate coach, mentor, somebody who has been in the space for a long time as a leader, but also I think you'll find he's built a little bit different. He looks at life and his challenges in front of him in such a cool way that it's inspiring to listen to. And the hope here is that maybe this gets you some clarity on something that you're challenged with, or, more importantly, challenges you to think different. With me today is Joel Holland. Thanks for joining us, Jody.
Thank you for having me, Tim.
Yeah, no worries, man. Listen, for anybody who doesn't know you, tell us about you. We always start with numbers and teams. Tell me about your team and tell me about your numbers.
Well, first is, while you are extremely handsome, should I be looking at you? Should I be looking at here? Where do I go when I say this story?
That's funny. Yeah, no, look at me, and we're good. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
We're coming up on. I got in the industry in 2006, which was, if we all maybe remember or recall, the world changed quite a bit in the mid 2000s, especially in the real estate space. So, interesting time to get into residential real estate.
It's interesting now too, because we're starting to see this with the NAR thing. We're starting to see kind of that whole shakeup of thing, right?
And this is, we'll call it because 06 to 08 was an interesting shift. Then I felt like 29 and 2010 was like a transition to the shift. 2012, May of 2012, we felt was the bottom of the market in the Chicago market. Then I felt the market shift again in like 2017, and then obviously the pandemic hit. And now we have this. And what's funny is getting into the real estate market in 2006. It taught me how to build a business, how to build good habits in a bad market. And so then if somebody's been in the real estate space for 5 years, like they may have no idea what they're doing right now because they built bad habits in a good market. And so I actually think, even though theoretically it was a terrible time to get into real estate, I think it was actually one of the best things possible.
I want to get into numbers, but you just put a quarter in me because I've been doing this for 20 years, right? And a lot of people have some misconceptions on 06, 07, 08, 10, right? The adage I always say to clients is that, do you know that if you bought a home in 2008 and you waited 7 years, your appreciation was already above the 08 levels, right?
That's the number.
The only people who lost were the ones who panicked, right? There's that. You took the wrong mortgage, ARMs, all of those things. I bring all that to the table with the mortgage side of why we don't have certain tactics today, or why I don't agree with them. But a lot of people are looking at the current market and trying to do this comparison, and no, absolutely not. No, you don't understand. You're not taking phone calls from people who they're upside down on their mortgage and asking what to do because they're panicked. They cannot pay this bill. That's not what's going on right now. This is not a hard market. It is a challenging market, but a hard market is having to tell somebody, we're going to figure out where we're going to put you because you are going to lose this house, right? Or you're going to deal with a modification and it's up to the bank that can take up to a year, and we're going to ruin your credit. And that is a hard market. Dealing with people crying on the phone. I mean, like gut-wrenching, horrible things where you want to help people and you can't. This is the house is on the market for 30 seconds, and do you want to buy it or not, right? Like we have an inventory crisis.
It could be where we've been working with somebody for 2.5 years looking for a place, and they've made 10 offers on a space, and they get emotionally excited, and maybe they have another kid coming like that. That's still a very hard conversation to have too. It's a very different conversation depending on the market you're in, the people you're servicing, the type of client that you're working with. So it is certainly presenting its different challenges, just like most things have two sides of the coin, blessings and a challenge. So one is having gotten into the market in 2006, and actually at the time it was just a leasing company, and the guys I started working with, we had 3 different companies going on. It was a job placement agency, it was we'll call it a networking and party promotions company, and then they just opened up the real estate space. So you would graduate from the Big Ten, you would move to Chicago, we'd help you find a job in sales or accounting, we would help introduce you to, hey, Tim, you're new to the space, like come to this event, come to this New Year's party. And then we'd help you find your first apartment.
Oh, wow.
And so when I started in that group, said, okay, well, then what? And so I knew that there was an opportunity to grow the business from there. So I came in with my sales license and I opened up the sales division. So we'd help you find your first job, help you find your first apartment to rent, introduce you to a bunch of people, help you with your networking, and then help you buy your first space.
Wow.
So that was kind of my enter into the space. And so since it wasn't just like, how do I sell you a house? It was, how do I help you create a life in Chicago? It's not that we've never tracked the numbers, but the numbers we tracked are how many lives have we helped? How many people have we helped, instead of just here's the volume of the millions of dollars we've sold or the number of units we've sold. At the time, if we helped a 3-bedroom apartment, we helped 3 people. We didn't close one deal. We didn't close a $3,000 a month deal. We helped 3 people.
For anybody watching this, I did not ask him to do this. Okay, so I know that we've had some challenges so we've had some opinions shared on whether we're reporting on volume transactions or units, right? So this is amazing. This is coming up because it's extremely relevant. I love your stance on this. I love that you're saying it's not about my commission. It's not about the volume. It's not about these things. It's that, yes, that's a great accolade to have, and no one's taking that away from anybody. But for my own personal business, I want to know how many families did I help?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is where people put their kids to sleep, right? Like, I take this very seriously.
Well, so that's real. So when somebody says like, I want to get into real estate, like the reason I love real estate has nothing to do with real estate. So I'll come back to this in a moment, but we're not selling vacuum cleaners. No offense to vacuum salespeople, of course. But this is where somebody needs to live and sleep. So you're either living in your parents' basement, you're renting, you're homeless, or you own your house. Like I don't have to convince you, like, would you like shelter? And so I love that I don't have to sell the product. I am here to help you be happy at home, whatever that means. And so I get bored with the real estate really easily. If somebody says like, I love looking online and all the listings and the pictures, like I want to get into real estate, I'm like, then go be an architect, go be a design service at the Merch Mart, go sell blinds if you want to get in a house. I don't care. You're gonna get really bored with the real estate. You have to love the people. You have to get messy with the people.
Yeah.
You got to be psychologist, marriage counselor, financial advisor. I find out about divorces and new babies before most families do. And so like, that's heavy. Like, that's the part that I love, that I want to be like, let's figure this out together.
Yeah.
We just happen to run a top 1% real estate team. So I also want to admit that the first year that there's 1 month, I made 6 figures in 1 month. And that year I spent more money than I ever had before. And that was the first year ever that I started calculating the commission before a deal closed. And all of a sudden I was like, I do not like this. I was all of a sudden making it about the money. So it's got to be about the money at certain aspects. I have to pay my bills. I have to be able to support my family. Nothing will stop me from supporting my family and doing what I need to do.
Your why.
And so when I get to focus on the people, I know the money will come. So it's okay to report on the volume and to make sure, like, are we paying the bills? That's the inside the business piece that you need to know your numbers. And we track what we call life events. Like when we close a deal, like you are not allowed to close a deal on my team without at least one reason of why they're moving. Are they having a kid? Are they getting a divorce? Are they relocating? And so in January, when everyone's posting their numbers, we did 40 million, we did 50 million. We helped 22 people have a new baby this year. We helped 12 people find their first home as first-time buyers. We helped 10 people relocate in or out of the city. Whatever the numbers are.
That's cool.
So that's like the fun part. That whatever, I don't care.
But it's more relatable, right?
Yeah.
I think we
could be cliche, but I don't care. Like I love the people. That's why I do what I do.
I think maybe it was cliche before, but I don't see that anywhere. I don't see anybody reporting on because all right, so. The reason we post those things is, yes, we want people to know that we are good at what we do and we're proud of it. That's completely legit and fine. I mean, I do it, right? Because I'm proud of it, right? I'm proud of what I've aspired to be is finally I'm getting that validation. But I think that it's interesting when a consumer sees that, we always have a pause of like, oh, cool, right? Like, congratulations. But the more relatable piece would be, well, we helped 22 people who had a specific life event happening. And if I'm a consumer and that's happening to me right now, who am I going to call? Right? Yeah. There's some brilliance behind what you're doing. I mean, I think a lot of people could learn something from that.
Well, and I'd rather, in terms of as a father, as a husband, as someone who I do care about, we'll call it, I don't even actually, we can talk about life balance later. I think actually the phrase work-life balance is completely wrong, and I'm happy to share my hard opinion on that. But based on the priorities that I have, I would rather be working with 5 people that I love and that I'm going to give you my energy, as opposed to close 100 deals in a month or whatnot.
So for anybody watching, how many families did you help, for example, last year?
So last year we were just about 240 families.
Oh, wow.
We do a lot of leasing still. So we have 3 full-time leasing agents on our team. So we're, half of our number of families we help are on the leasing side, half the numbers of families we help are on the buying and selling side.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, I mean, you teed it up, right? So talking about work-life balance.
Yeah. So first of all, if I'm going to give my opinion, I might as well give it. I think that the phrase work-life balance is completely, like, whether it's erroneously used or there's a fallacy on it. When you think balance, like, you ever ride the teeter-totter? Like, you do the teeter-totter, right? Mm-hmm. So we think balance is supposed to be like this even level thing, but a teeter-totter, one is up and one is down.
Yeah.
One is up, one is down.
You have to make a choice.
So I'm in the camp of, forget the concept of balance. I don't want to balance both at once. I'm either 100% dad mode or 100% husband mode or 100% work mode. And so that's not easy to do. And it's when you're playing a game with your kid and this deal is calling you, like, what do? You can't be perfect all the time. Sometimes you may choose, not have to, choose to say, this is a priority. I need to switch my hat from dad mode to work mode.
I think we're all guilty of this. Yeah.
So there's no way you can ever be perfect. And at the same time, I've chosen to the best of my ability to try and be 100% all in on wherever and whenever I am.
Yeah, so I think I've struck a nerve with the coaching on you. I know you're a coach to real estate agents as well. So go a little deeper on that. So how do you run your ship, for example?
Yeah, so this, depending on the time of the year, like 2 pieces of how do I ensure that my schedule, so instead of work-life balance, my schedule reflects my priorities, is my intention is 4 out of the 5 days a week, I'm done by 4 o'clock if possible. And so with my coaching clients, we talk about rituals, and this is actually I did not come up with this concept. I believe this was a Michael Hyatt concept of day start, work end, day end rituals. So, like, how do you start your day? Are you starting your day right with work emails? Well, you've now done a work start without doing even a day start. So I have a day start, whereas I'm ideally waking up at the same time, either 5:30 a.m. or 6 a.m. And then that time between I wake up and 7 a.m. that's my day start ritual. I'm doing my morning meditation. Maybe I'm doing some journaling. I'm drinking some water, maybe some tea. Maybe I'm gonna crank out a workout depending on the day. And then 7 to 8 is my family time, helping the kids out of the house. And then I have from 8 until 8:30 is my work start ritual, where I'm actually getting ready for the work day.
That's really interesting. So I think we've been programmed, right? I think that I'm guilty of this too, is that the first thing that I do when I wake up is grab my phone, right? It's the first thing I do. And you're challenging me with this, thinking about it now, that we have become attached to our phones. Like it is almost like a child, right? Because I watched a whole video and a whole series on this, talking about how we almost have dependency issues with our phones.
Oh,
right?
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Like if you're in another room and your phone's in another room, you have this weird kind of like thing going off that like
Just
you need to go get
it.
Right. Right. It's almost like you need to watch your child.
When was the last time you just, like, if you left the house, you left your phone at home?
Never. I can't do that. Right.
Or even like if you went for a walk, like on your farm, if you go for a run with your donkey on your farm, like, are you bringing your phone with you?
I mean, I do, but it's in my pocket, right?
So leave it, just, leave it next time. Just see what you feel.
In my world, the excuse that I make is that as a lender, right, I have to be an asset at all times, and I am. The challenge is that if that phone call comes through and I don't answer it, If I don't have it delegated properly, if somebody else isn't picking up my phone, then it goes to somebody else. So on my team, we actually do have that support where if I'm doing something, someone else is picking up that phone call. Do you have anything like that in your?
Yeah. So I want to, because we're talking about rituals as well. So don't let me forget about how I program myself for 4 o'clock in a different scheduling piece. So you said it right. Because if I'm like an individual agent, what do I do? Like I don't have a team. I don't have support. I feel like I have to answer the phone every single time it rings.
Sure.
So one is, if you wake up and you're touching your phone right away, who's in control of your schedule? Whoever texted you or emailed you first, like they are pulling you as opposed to you controlling your schedule. So I'm in the camp of you have to decide who's in charge of your schedule, you or somebody else, and being proactive or reactive. And so if you're a solo agent, what do you do? Well, think about what is the customer experience to interact with you. So if I can't answer my phone, I have a voicemail app where I can pre-record as many voicemails as I want. And so depending on the day, I can, with a click of a button, change my voicemail. So right now it says I'm often in appointments and meetings, so I apologize that I may not be available right now. The fastest way to reach me is via text or leave a message with not only what you need, but when I can reach you back. If it's a day that I know I have more availability, my message is going to say, hey, if you got my voicemail, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Shoot me a text or try calling me again. If it's a day that I know I have like a full day meeting, it says I'm in a full day meeting and I have scheduled breaks. So let me know how I can prioritize getting back to you. So even though I'm not answering that call, there's still like, I'm using technology to almost be like an answering service or a first point of contact. Here's a way to interact with me. Here's how to interact with me. Here's when I'm going to interact with you back. And that is going to be a first experience. That's better than, hi, my name's Joel. Thanks for your call. Your call's important to me. Leave a message. I
think we use voicemail wrong in most cases, given the current environment. I think that we have learned that there's a better way, there's a better usage of our time, and it can become interactive instead of just I'm reminded of beepers, right? You call the beeper, it's got music on it, right? No one cares.
911, Tim, call me back.
No one cares. After you say your name, they're like, okay, yeah, it's a standard message. But if you stop and listen to this message, hang on. Here's the reason that you're getting my voicemail, right? And then giving them a way to maybe interact with somebody else on your team if you have a team,
Absolutely.
Right? So that way you've got the ability to service your clients properly.
And so if there's days where if I'm out for a weekend, it will say, here's the best way to reach my team. Here's our team email. Here's our team number. Oh, and by the way, that email will go to my whole team. So even though if you may not get a call back right away, we got it. Mm-hmm. So that's just a first interaction point if you can't always answer your phone or choose that you don't want to answer your phone. So for instance, when I built out my team, when I met my now wife in 2011, I stopped working Saturdays. I do not work from Friday night until Saturday night for 24 hours. I tell all clients when I first meet them, 24 hours from Friday night to Saturday night, that's 6 days a week I'm available for you. And from Friday night to Saturday night, that is 24 hours where that's my family time. That's time that I've dedicated to my family.
So who picks up if a client wants to see a house on a Saturday?
Yeah, so one is the way I've structured my team now. We have buyers, agents, and specific people that I likely would have assigned to that. If I am the one who's helping with showings, they know that from Friday night to Saturday night, I'm not available. And then I'll typically have like 1 or 2 agents who I know is like, if you can't reach me at this time, but somebody's property's gonna show up at 8 o'clock at night and they want to see it at Saturday at 8 in the morning is unlikely, even though in this market, maybe it can, maybe it could. So, I'll have like a text chain with me, the client, and 1 other agent who would be available for that. So we can get them 7 days a week coverage and they just know that I'm not available for those 24 hours. And it was scary to do. And I remember like, in 2011, I was actually studying with a rabbi. So I'm into my Judaism and being a spiritual person and how to be good to other fellow humans. And I said, like, Rabbi, how do I, if somebody says I want to see a house at 12 o'clock on Saturday, how do I say no to them? I was struggling with how to do this. And he said, like, if I said, Tim, I need you to do this loan for me, and you said that you were at a wedding, do you think a client would understand, like, oh, you're at a wedding?
They're supposed to, but they won't. Right.
Well, but we think that they won't. So just because they may not understand your obligation, doesn't mean it's less of an obligation.
So I'd scale that back. Some would, if in an urgent situation, I've learned that I need to have support. And whether you're a single agent, a single loan officer, whatever it is, you got friends, right? And so if your business plan does not include some level of partnership, I would challenge you to find that.
Absolutely.
You're going to have a managing broker. You're going to have a boss, a teammate, somebody that's like, hey, listen, I'm going to this wedding. For this weekend, I owe you one. I'll do the same for you when you go on vacation, right? And start somewhere. And like, we use a term on my team, right? It's called, it's okay to break a dish, right? I run a restaurant. I'm a mortgage lender, but I run a restaurant. And I run the best damn restaurant you've ever eaten at. But even in the best restaurants, you're going to break a dish in the back room. It happens. You're going to make mistakes.
Someone's going to drop a steak on the floor.
I'm lead chef and I'm good with it. And I'm kind of like Gordon Ramsay when I'm leading my team. But here's the deal. I'm okay with the dish getting broken. I am. I'm completely fine with it. But I will address it and go, okay, we did this.
Absolutely.
That cost us money. How do we make sure that we don't do this again? Because I can't break dishes every day or we're going to go out of business, right? Same thing here is that if you start to partner up with somebody and you break a dish, you got to be okay with that, learn from it, and figure out how to partner with that person, get it to where it needs to be. Not everybody is going to be the right partnership. That's okay.
I hear that.
Right? You just got to figure it out, but get over the fear. Because otherwise, your other option is to be a slave in the middle of a wedding. Nobody likes that guy.
Well, not only nobody likes that guy, first of all, it does work for some. Some have chosen that path, and I have chosen different priorities. Now, it doesn't mean that I can't service my clients. It means that the clients that I've chosen to partner with and that choose to partner with me, it's a two-way interview every single time. I do not work for a client, we work with clients. So that is at least fundamentally something I hold dear. And the clients who say, I love that. Like I say, I'm with my family 24 hours. The ones who say, I love that, I say, you're my people. If the ones that say, that doesn't work for me, I say, I can assign you to a team member or we're not a good fit. And I'm in the camp that, just like the day start ritual, if you're my client, can we agree that you want me to show up at my best? Yes or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I can't show up as my best if I'm 24/7, 7 days a week, grinding myself out. If I don't take those 24 hours to be with my family, I do not feel like I'm my best version. So guess what? When I am showing up for you, I'm charged and no one will stop me. I'm in the camp of time out and time away helps me better for time in.
For those watching this, as soon as I walked into the studio, I could feel this guy's energy right out the gate. You could tell what he's talking about is real. Like you could tell he's refreshed, he's ready to go, and that he's intentional with the way he does things.
Thank you.
All right, for those watching, go, cool, that works for you, like whatever. Like how do you overcome the objections, right? Like how do you deal with people? Like you'll go broke, right? How do you overcome objections?
Well, so can we just like nerd out on the word objection for a moment?
Yeah, I love it.
So objection is like, we say like, okay, how do I handle this objection, or what's the script? And I want to like, you handle a dirty diaper, you handle an objection, you handle, this is twice now we're going to reference that you have a donkey on your family farm. You handle your donkey shit, okay?
That is real. For those that don't know, I do have a farm, and there is a mini donkey there. He's awesome. His name's Walter.
I don't think you should handle an objection.
Okay.
So first of all, an objection is like, this isn't like somebody at court, it's like, your honor, objection, sustained, overruled. If you're talking with a client and they bring up a concern, not an objection, a concern. First of all, that means that they're still actually interested. Mm-hmm. So some people see an objection as like, stop a business, I gotta get over this hurdle. They're still interested, so that means that's a good thing. And if I could just be like, okay, tell me more. Like, why is this interesting for you? Like, if you're gonna be my client, you have real concerns, real needs, real bills, real emotional, psychological, physical problems that you need to solve.
Yeah.
I have those same things, and guess what? You're gonna help me pay my mortgage. This is not me trying to handle your objection. This is me being like, tell me why that was important for you. Like, if you thought to ask that, whether it's a commission a concern or why I should hire you, it's like, that's an amazing question. I'm so glad you asked that.
Let's slow this down for the audience, right? You have an objection, and your response should automatically be at least tell me more, or a reiteration of tell me more, right? So many people miss this.
Yes.
I run into objections every single day as a mortgage lender because people try and listen, interest rates are extremely important. I have great interest rates, but my coach, Brian Smith, taught me that I would hate to lessen our relationship by focusing on interest rates. Well, that sounds like a way to charge a higher one. That's not what I'm saying to you, that's not what I'm focused on here. I'm focused on, do you understand what's going on in the market? Right? Do you understand what's going on? Like, you need somebody who I want you to understand that I have great interest rates, but what I'm going to focus on right now is my skill set, because I'm going to bring that to the table because, like you, if I'm in, you just hired somebody that's a gladiator. I will go in and I will get in a full-blown fist fight for you if you're my client. I will fight with a seller's agent. I will fight with a seller. I will do what needs to happen in order to get the deal done, because I'm the guy that people call when things fall apart. Right? And so you're asking more questions of your client of what is your actual objective? Like, that's valid. Tell me more about what's going on.
Tell me more about what's going on. Is it like, let's sit with it. Let's get curious. Like, why was this important for you? What's your understanding of it? Based off the different answers that we possibly have, what will those answers do for you? When you're looking to hire me as your agent, like, what's most important for you? Like, let's sit with it. Let's get curious. Let's explore, as opposed to try and, like, we call show up and throw up, as opposed to be like, well, why? I had a client the other day who they've been renting for years. They've literally like saved up for years. They have 3 kids in a place that they're not having enough space for 3 kids. And he was like, why should I hire you? And so many agents would be like, okay, here comes my script. And then just,
Yeah.
And I just, to slow down, I'm so glad you asked that question. Like, that is a great question. And actually, funny, you'd be amazed how many top agents, if they were asked that question, they either wouldn't know how to answer, or they were to answer like 5 different ways, 5 different times. And so this isn't about selling anything. It's like, awesome. Well, how about this? When you're looking to do this, like, why now? Why is this time for you? When you're looking to hire me, like, what's important for you? Mm-hmm. If I'm selling a house, I'm not gonna just tell you about the kitchen finishes if all you care about is the school zone.
Right.
So like, when I'm showing a house, I don't talk to you about the features. When you walk in the door, I'm gonna say, hey, Tim, like, talk to me. What's most important for you that you wanna talk about first? Location or the house?
That's good.
And so what if you said the location and all I was talking about was the kitchen finishes?
Yeah. Right? You have to meet a client where they're at. You have to meet a client where they're at, because otherwise I think as salespeople, it's easy to seem desperate, because what happens is that you probably have this badass script that you've just been waiting to unleash, and you're thinking about it in the car, you're thinking about it before you make the call, and you're like, I'm gonna say this and this is gonna happen. And it's this pre-recorded dialogue that you think is about to, and it's good. You can dribble that ball and go dunk all day. But if you step on the court and you don't understand what the actual game is, like, you don't understand what this client actually wants, you're not doing your service. You're not actually, you're not meeting them where they're at. And there may be a divorce or a life event or something that they want to tell you about, right? We're kind of psychologists, and sometimes we're kind of therapists at some point, right?
Yeah, not kind of. We definitely are. And so just being able to sit and not only not handle an objection, but you mentioned, like, when you're with a client, like, these are humans. Like, so if we can just sit with humans and be like, okay, like, if I was your advocate, if I was your family advisor, which that's what I'm interviewing to do. I'm not interviewing to help you buy or sell a house. I'm interviewing to be your partner. Even if you never end up buying a place, I'll help you negotiate your current rent with your landlord. Like, I don't care. I want to help you. My job is to help you be happy at home. I hope to help you buy or sell one when you're ready. I hope to help your friends and your family when you're ready. I hope that you would always feel that I would treat you like you would want your friends and family to be treated. And I'm going to sit with you and figure out, let's put it all on the table. I'm not going to show up with a hammer. I'm going to sit and say, what are your house problems? Let me figure out what tools I got, and let's throw them on the table and say, well, what do you think we should do here together? And let's work on this together.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Talk to me about your family dynamic. I know that your wife must have an opinion of how how does that social structure work with your schedule and all of those things? What does she think of?
Well, that's certainly, like, when you marry a real estate agent or anyone who's in the sales and service and entrepreneurial world, like, this is a lifestyle. This is not a job. So you certainly have to know and understand that. And that's really when people come and say, like, I want to be in real estate. It's like, this is a lifestyle. This is not a job.
Right.
So
my favorite is when people get on the internet and they're like, you guys, and they just start running their mouths about, like, you guys just show up and show a house and, like, like whatever, you make all this, and it's like, you don't understand. Like, and my response was the same. I'm like, the people I'm surrounded by, they don't ever stop working. Like, ever. Like, and don't get me wrong, you take breaks and those, but like the thing is still running. Like, you're building this over years.
Like, me going to the gym is just as much a part of my job as our persuasion, practice that we do for an hour once a week, every single week. So I take an hour-long steam on Friday afternoons. That's like my meditation, and I have like a waterproof notepad where I'm like writing down like all the things that I may have missed that week, or all my ideas, or what I want to do for my next video, or like a realization that, like this conversation happened on Wednesday, and I'm like replaying that conversation. Like, here's something I missed. That's like my unload detox time. Okay. Noting that from Friday to Saturday night, I'm typically in my family mode. That's almost like my weekend ritual.
So does she think you're nuts? Does she think, like, did she watch you doing all this?
Do you know how hard that conversation was? Because our youngest son is done with preschool at 1 o'clock, and I'm typically like in the steam from like 1:30 until 2:30. Okay. And it took a long time. Bless, dear, if you're watching this, I love you. Thank you. Because I know how guilty I felt. Like, you're downstairs with the kid, and I'm taking his steam. And that's where some of my best business ideas come from. I literally sometimes I'll have 3 or 4 pages on literally a waterproof notepad I bring in the steam room with me. And I'm coming up with just ridiculous ideas. And sometimes 9 out of the 10 are terrible, but that one is great. That one is good enough. Maybe it's a conversation I had earlier in the week that I replayed, and I was like, oh, you know what? This is something really good to follow up with. Or maybe this is an observation on one of my team members I followed up with. And so my wife understands that now that's a meeting with myself. That's like a board of advisors, like the highest level meeting I can have. And my week is not right if I don't have that time to clear my mind and put everything on the table and be like, what happened this week that I missed?
Yeah, so I relate to everything that you're saying, because I say it, and I think I'm a weirdo when I say it to people, because I get a reaction. So I'm like, I have my best ideas in the shower. Yeah. Like, I'm literally, and my wife thinks I'm nuts, because I'm sitting there and I'm like talking to myself, and I'm like rehearsing, or I'm like working things out, because like it's just that time where everything else is gone. Yep. And I can just sit there and focus, and all of a sudden it just floods in, because you get so much noise all day long, and all of a sudden you go, oh yeah. Okay, so here's how we're gonna tackle this, and I walk out, and I gotta write down, get everything squared away. I love that you're sharing that, because I think a lot of people, maybe there may be some other people that maybe need to maybe write some things down after that.
But there was other, so she now also runs her own business from home as well.
Oh wow!
And so it's tough when you.
Wait, so she runs her own business.
So my wife and her mom started a business. A little over 2 years ago. Okay. So it's not easy having 2 business owners, 2 sales roles in the house where you can be working 24/7 at any moment. Yeah. So we've had to be very purposeful with
what is her
our
business?
timing.
What does she do?
So she runs, her and her mom are a small batch luxury cupcake providers. So
that's cool.
We can
plug it.
So it's called Lux and Lilac. Okay. So her mom was 30 years in the food professions. Oh wow. Like test kitchens, testing recipes, like corporate science, systematic.
Okay. Like, all right. Yeah.
You name it. And then my wife is like the artist, designer.
You sound like my people. Piece. This is great.
And so they make these beautiful floral cupcakes that. Oh, cool. That look like when I show pictures, like be like, oh, those are really pretty. Those are great. And I was like, these are not flowers. These are cupcakes. And they're like, what?
Oh wow!
So Lux and Lilac, check it out for.
Definitely.
It's not a cupcake. It is like a luxury experience.
Too cool.
And the biggest problem is nobody wants to eat them because they're so beautiful. They taste freaking delicious. I don't even like cake. I don't like frosting. Wow. They're delicious.
That is cool. So like, I love that because some of these ideas and some of the things that you're dealing with and all of it, you kind of have that synergy, but it's also probably hard to run two businesses at the same time.
Yeah. So, instead of, when I come home, it's like, okay, who's supposed to do the dishes right now? Who's supposed to cook dinner? So the good news is we've gotten very good over the years of figuring out how to manage my time schedule, and we've been able to adopt some of that, but it's hard because now we have to figure out who's doing what and when.
Yeah.
Though I love being like, it's hard to promote your own business. So she gets to promote my real estate business and I get to promote, I got all the photos ready to go of her cupcakes.
That's cool.
I don't want to sell my business when I'm meeting new people. I want to promote hers. So it's kind of fun. I also think how cool that we're raising two boys, and I can be like, do you know how proud you should be of your mom? Like, they're creating something that's amazing and beautiful that she's, creating, and her mom are creating. And that's just as much about her identity as it is about my identity of what I do as well.
That's really cool. Yeah, and they've got to be watching, right? Like that's amazing. They're watching the two of you create things out of thin air. All right, so there's a segment that we typically jump into where, this is a show for real estate agents, right? People watching this, I always try and share something for the industry, that is specific to you, that you think you could give them that'll help them with their business. What advice would you have for somebody, or what's something that you could share that would maybe challenge someone to make more money or do better in their business?
Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of hinted on some of them. I knew you were going to ask, so I wanted to make sure I had something specific and tactical as opposed to loosey-goosey and theoretical. So one of my favorite things that I used to call it rejection therapy, but I now call it getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, is the difference between myself and somebody else is like, I teach sales classes. I teach throughout the country on like when multiple offers were a ridiculous thing. I was teaching throughout the country of how to win multiple offers.
Yeah.
I love teaching like psychology and therapy and sales tactics. And one of the things is people are like, oh, I want to talk like you. I wish you're so fearless. I'm like, I'm not fearless. I have plenty of fear. I have plenty of discomfort. Yeah. I'm just really comfortable with those feelings when I do that. So an example
and
would
having courage to just do it because you're like, this is really uncomfortable. And I'm sorry, I have to share this too because I think you'll like it.
Yeah.
I'm decided that I am going to be uncomfortable for the rest of my life. Like if I'm comfortable, it bothers me. I want to go challenge myself to do things that I'm like, I don't know if I can do this, and just do it anyways. And maybe I'm going to do it bad. Maybe I'm going to do it right. Maybe I'll enjoy it. Maybe I won't. But like, I'm not going to not do it. Right. So those crazy ideas that you have, you're watching this, love to chat with you on it.
Yeah,
let's go.
Yeah, I'm in like every personality test I've ever taken. It says like Joel sees rules as boundaries to push. I'm like, yes, that's like that test that gets me, that understands me.
I love it.
I'm in the camp of if you're either pushing boundaries or you're being restricted by them. And for some, that works great. Some people love to be the comfortable campers, and I need those people on my team. We can't all be builders. I need somebody to be a protector too.
Yeah.
So everybody has their role. For me, like, when was the last time you did something like ridiculous and audacious and like had no fear of rejection, or you would have thought total rejection possibility?
I mean, I'm in a constant state of this, so let's be honest. It's as a mortgage lender, we're constantly.
How about personally then, outside of the work? I'm going to put you on the spot.
In the last year, I built, as you've alluded to a few times, that many people may or may not know. I decided to build a farm, and I had no idea what I was doing, and I just did it. I downloaded plans off of Etsy, and I'm dead serious, $30, and I looked at it and I went, all right, so this is grown-up Legos. Cool, got it. I've never built anything in my entire life, and I said, I'm gonna build a chicken coop. It's fine, and I did. And people come to my house now and go, wait, you built that? What? Because it's cool and I'm proud of it, but it was the most uncomfortable thing ever because every weekend that's how I'm spending my time, away from my, friends, and it was a COVID thing. But like the beauty behind that is that I'm now super proud of it and I'm obsessed. We've gone so much further with it, but I would have never done it if I hadn't just had the courage to go, you know what? Let's just try it and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So like we'll call it two rejection, uncomfortable stories. I was recently in Arizona traveling, and we have a family wedding that's coming up, and we saw a store. My wife and I walked in, and she saw this like super cute jumpsuit, and we both were like, that's pretty cool. That'd be a good spot. And it was like more than we were expecting or wanting to pay for that jumpsuit. And I was like, whatever, we're on vacation, we're having fun, just go try it on. And it looked great. It was killer. And we look at the price tag and we're like, okay, it's like a B plus, A minus. It'd be an A plus if it was the right price. And she's like, okay, we won't get it. And I was like, give me 5 minutes. And this is like this is a retail store. Okay, this is not like, we're not in like a market in Thailand where everything is negotiable. And I just flat out said, let's be honest, we have a family wedding. We would be getting this for this specific purpose. My wife has 3 dresses at home, which is correct. I will never lie. I will always be very particular with my words, but I will never lie. We have 3 dresses at home that are half this price, that are waiting for us, that we're gonna try on. We have no need to really buy this. What can you do for me here? And they're like, we don't have any sales right now. Okay, that's totally fine. We're first-time shoppers in this place, and what could you do to help us say yes and get this right now? Because it's more expensive than we want to pay.
Wow.
And they gave us a 15% off discount just because I asked.
Hilarious.
And it's not that it's just about the money, but like, and my wife's face was like so nervous, so nervous. And I'm nervous too, right? I feel weird asking, but I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask. And so another example for real estate specifically, I'm selling a house in my neighborhood, and there's an elementary nearby, and there are now cars that kind of like wrap around for the school pickup line. And so there's about 10 cars that sit. It's a couple of houses down, but you can see the house that we're selling. And so there's 10 cars that are waiting every day for 30 minutes down the street from this house, 3 houses down.
Okay.
So I printed out flyers of this house we were selling. It had this beautiful like 3-season room. And I printed out flyers that said, imagine if you were waiting here instead of in your car. And I went door knocking on the cars waiting on the street for the pickup line in the rain. Like, do you know how uncomfortable that was? That was ridiculous.
So like, what is this guy
and
want?
I'm in the rain. It's a ridiculous thing. So I knocked on the window. They roll the window down. I'm like, what's going on? So I just called it what it was. This is ridiculous. I hope you know that. So I just might as well say it. Instead of, we just want to make sure that everybody knew about this house for sale. And instead of waiting in this car line, wouldn't you be rather waiting in this beautiful 3-season room? The yellow house right there is for sale.
Wow.
Like, who knows? Who the heck knows who you're going to meet? And I met a business owner who lives nearby who runs a dog kennel. And now we're going to nerd out on like, I have clients who move to the area with dogs who don't have a dog kennel. So now I can support a local business. I met another neighbor. I met another guy who has a kid. Like, these are ridiculous, audacious things.
Yeah.
So just be ridiculous, be uncomfortable, and get comfortable with it.
Yeah, you shared a story too of you had flyers on one house, right? And the cops came.
This is actually the same house, yeah.
So the same house the cops showed up?
So not only did I have the imagine if you were here with a 3-season room, I actually got, those like those yard signs with like vote for this person. Corrugated thing with a little metal H-frame.
Right, yeah.
So I got like a big one of and actually Full Bars Media took a beautiful shot of the 3-season rooms. It's a beautiful picture. Maybe we'll flash it for everyone to see it. And I put a big sign that said, imagine if you were waiting here instead for that car line.
Yeah.
And I had to put it in somebody else's yard. So I called the neighbor, I got permission, I put that in their yard. So that's one sign.
Okay.
Then there's some like major streets that are nearby this house that we had listed for sale. So I put like one pointer sign on one of the main streets, another pointer sign on one of the main streets. I did 2 other pointer signs in people's yards, but I called the owners and said, hey, I'm trying to get as much attention and traffic to this house as possible. We all want property values to be high. Can I put a sign in your yard? And I put it in, sent them a picture, got their approval. And the police knocked on my door the other day, and because they know where I live, and they said we got an anonymous complaint that the signs are a nuisance. And I said, well, here are all of the different conversations I've had where I got approval for it. So everything's been approved and we're all good. And she said, thank you. And she said, okay, great. We're all good. And she went away. So if you're not pushing those boundaries, if you are not agitating in this market, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah, you remind me of a story, right? That the whole point is that there's no such thing as bad press. A lot of people look at, celebrities and those things. They know exactly the game they're playing by, one. I'm not going to list names because it'll start a whole other thing. But like you see these people who do things just to say them, so that way they, that you get attention back on them. One of the stories I love is do you know the story of Barnum and Bailey?
Tell me.
So Barnum and Bailey bought a circus that was not doing well, and that he started this thing, and he was kind of creating it, and he just could not get this thing off the ground, and he couldn't sell tickets. So what he did was he went and made a bunch of flyers of like reviews of his circus being awful. And I believe, I may be wrong on this part, but I believe there was a newspaper article that did come out talking trash about his circus, saying it was awful, right? And so he made flyers out of this, and he went and littered the entire town with these flyers saying, this is the worst circus ever. I can't believe people pay money for this, blah, 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 blah. And so people were picking these flyers up and started buying tickets to go see this awful circus. And when they found out it wasn't awful, they became the biggest fans of the circus. And that's why we have Barnum and Bailey today, is because these people became very prideful of proving that this person was wrong, and they didn't know what they were talking about.
People want to go see the train wreck, and then they get under promised and over delivered.
Yeah, and they realize
fantastic.
Like, you're people that are upset about something. They'll be the quickest one to jump on social media and complain, and those others. But the ones that see value in what this person is arguing against will be your biggest fans, and those voices are way louder, right? So in real estate, having a good sphere around you of people that are your biggest fans is probably the biggest value add you can be.
Well, I want to be clear, is like somebody called the cops on me, so like I pissed somebody off, okay?
Right.
But guess what? I probably wouldn't have gotten along with them anyway. Or maybe they're another real estate agent who lives in the neighborhood. I don't know. It's okay. I think that's fine. They're allowed their opinion too. And that literally, at first I was like, did I do something wrong? Like,
listing so hot, the cops get called.
I don't need to put those signs up to sell the house. I sold the house in 12 seconds with multiple offers for a ridiculous price.
Wow.
And I cannot promise somebody 100% exposure if I don't turn over every single friggin' leaf.
Amen.
And to talking about other real estate agents there, my intention is, if this is in my neighborhood, I want 5 other listings because of this one listing. And I want to be able to say, not just to promote my name, I want to show people what I'm willing to do. I went door knocking in my neighborhood as well. Like, when was the last time agents went door knocking?
Yeah, that's very common in other states. You don't see it as much here, right? Like Arizona, you talk to agents out there and they're like, that's the only way to get listings is you have to door knock. And I go, what? Wow. That sounds aggressive. And they'll literally drive into neighborhoods and, they take their kids and they go and knock on doors. But you got to do what you got to do. Sometimes that's what it takes, is actually, how are you going to meet these people?
Well, and so this will be a great transition to like the next piece, what I call is like be human. I want to attract people, not just promote myself. So sure, when I'm going door knocking, like, there's a part of me that I'm promoting myself, but there's a difference between saying, hey, I'm Joel Holland, I sell houses in the neighborhood, do you want to interview me? Would you be willing to sell your house? Or we're looking to sell this house, and when we attract buyers to the neighborhood, like, what's your favorite part about this neighborhood? Like, why do you love it here? Oh, and by the way, these clients, they've been here for 50 years. That's like a pretty amazing legacy. Do you have any friends or family, would want to move to the neighborhood to take over the legacy and help keep our neighborhood awesome? There's a big difference between promoting myself and being human and having it be about the people. When I was going door knocking, I found there was a house that had been bought like 2 years ago, and finally the construction fence went up. I went out and bought earplugs, and then with the door knocking flyers I had, I stapled earplugs to the, in a little package, and I stapled earplugs to those flyers, and I said, good luck with the construction noise.
Oh, wow.
And so it's just like, there's like, I'm going to work really friggin' hard and really creatively, but then also hold this like fun joy.
Yeah, it's clever.
Like, it's fun.
Yeah.
Like, and it's cheeky. And if somebody doesn't get it or doesn't like it, then you're not for me. And if somebody does, like my father-in-law is an amazing like global advertising guru and an incredible human being. And he said to me while I'm trying to figure out who am I in this world and how to be visible, he said, don't try to be something to everyone. Try to be everything to some.
Yeah.
And so
it's a lot of, that's a great point.
And so it's that human connection, back to the objection handling piece of being human, understand that these are real people and I'm trying to solve problems on both sides of the coin here. That I think is really helps hold that joy for me.
I love it, man. I'd be remiss without having you here to you're obviously established. You've been doing this a long time. We talked about the old school previously. We talked about in the beginning of the interview that, we've got some old school stuff kind of showing up, right? So the hottest thing, as of this filming right now is that there's legislation. Well, sorry, let's scratch that. There is a lawsuit that is finally coming to fruition that their NAR, the National Association of Realtors, has agreed to settle. I believe it's 417 million,
That
right?
may not be the number.
Yeah,
but
it's 400 million, right?
Yeah.
That they're going to settle this lawsuit for on their side, and part of the settlement is that they're going to remove the ability to co-op, right, or list on the MLS
advertise. Yeah, they will prohibit the advertisement or display of cooperating compensation. Doesn't mean that you can't offer, but you cannot display the offer of compensation.
So the immediate reaction to all these, and again, it's almost like the celebrity thing. The immediate reaction to get attention is to put out, things that state that realtors are done, and that commissions are going to completely change, and that the industry is completely over, and so there's a lot of people that are very stressed out, or that maybe the newer agents that haven't gone through some cycle change. I mean, look. We went through Dodd-Frank. Lenders got completely, overhauled. We had to change everything, and there was all this messaging about, oh, this is done, it's over. There's, we're just completely, we're not going to be able to make any money. This is, I'm going to go into another field, and some did. We just adapted and changed, and the truth is that when the dust settled, we're better off for it. Clients get a better deal. There's a better way to do business than the way it was previously, and it removed your ability to be what people are upset about, right? And I think it was great. I don't know that there's the same translation here, but I know that in some real estate deals, some people feel taken advantage of or don't feel it was transparent. And so it does beg the question or does, kind of shine a light on some transparency issues, right? What are your thoughts and how are you adapting and responding to this?
Well, first of all, it's interesting timing that we're having this. We were supposed to record this two weeks ago, and then this happened this week. So I think we're meant to have this recording at this moment. So there's of the three main key differences. So one is going to say that in the MLS we are prohibited in any field to share if we are or are not offering compensation. There's an additional piece that says in the MLS rules, we were already allowed to offer zero compensation. So the people who are freaking out that it may go to zero, that was already an option, even though people didn't choose it. But we're talking about now agents have to be more transparent of how we're paid, and that sellers were concerned that they were paying a buyer's fee. A seller is hiring a listing agent, and then that listing agent is having to pay a buyer's agent. And I agree, that seller isn't hiring that buyer's agent. And in fact, that buyer's agent is working against their behalf. Why should they have to be paying it? But the thing is, they don't have to. They never had to. Most agents were just not talking about it. So if I have a buyer who calls me, whether it's on one of our listings on one of the random websites or a sign call, it doesn't matter. We are, whenever possible, I will try. Sometimes you just have to show somebody the property if it's right for them. And if I'm the listing agent, we still have a fiduciary responsibility to show somebody the property, but a qualified buyer, not just anybody. So that's important. So part of my qualification with a new buyer lead is I ask every time, are you familiar with how the websites work? And are you familiar with how a broker works and how we're paid? I've been having this conversation for 18 years with buyers, and we've always only worked with exclusive buyer broker agency agreements. So one is, I think this is going to be an amazing, beautiful level playing field, because one of the litigation pieces said it couldn't just be a monetary response. There had to be a substantial change in business practice. So one of the other pieces that nobody's talking about is people saying this is the end of buyer agency. Perhaps it's the exact opposite. In order to show a client a listing on the MLS, I previously would say, hey, Tim, if you want to work with me, if you and your family want to work with me, let's sit down and do a one-on-one orientation on what's going on in the market, what it costs to be you in different neighborhoods, how to buy a house, the pros and cons of it, financing, taxes, every single step of the process here and there. And that's my interview for the job. Oh, and by the way, if you want to work with me, here's our exclusive buyer broker agreement. Here's how much we charge. Here's how much we get paid. If it's paid by the seller, then that's already incorporated in the price. And if it's not paid by the seller, here's the fee you're responsible for. And we also, when I was working exclusively with buyers, I was charging retainer fees for years. You were not in my car unless you had paid me a retainer fee, and I made it refundable at closing. So that conversation should be happening every time. And guess what? Now it's required. Now to show a client a house on the MLS, it says we are required an in writing exclusive buyer broker agreement. Before, we were maybe one of only 10 agents who would actually do it. It's amazing how many agents have never worked with a buyer broker agreement.
I think
now it's a level playing field.
It's just this, it's shining a light on people not being comfortable to have that conversation. And my answer to that is, look, I'm not a realtor, but I will tell you that, now is the time that if you've ever considered working on your skill set, working on your presentation,
absolutely,
getting a mentor, getting around somebody, and that's not meant to offend. If this is going to change, you're going to have to change to survive, right? We had to do it in Dodd-Frank. I can tell you that we had to change every single part of our presentation as mortgage lenders when Dodd-Frank went through, and it was awful. It was painful. And we all had to figure it out together. And it was wonky in the beginning because it was just such an overhaul that there were so many questions. And that period's going to happen, right? If this goes through and it does change and it does stick, which, to be clear, judge has not signed off on it. We don't have clarity yet, right? It still needs to be established fully. And my understanding is Berkshire Hathaway, either yesterday or the day before, actually asked for this to go to the Supreme Court. So there's things that are happening that it could change further. But that being said,
but no matter what, some of these changes should happen. We should always be transparent.
Maybe it should be the time to actually work on this and go, okay, if I'm going to be a realtor for a long period of time, and this is my career and this is my lifestyle, right? If you're overly concerned that clients are going to come work with you and then screw you over unintentionally or intentionally, maybe there's something that you have to stand for and work on how to present these things. I know a bunch of agents who've been doing this already, right? And have been working on this knowing that this was coming, right? And I love that you're ahead of it. What would you recommend if they were listening to you right now?
Well, even just one of the things you mentioned, I got screwed over, so many agents have come to me like, I got screwed over. This client went and did this and saw this and bought this house without me. They didn't screw you over. You either didn't offer enough value, and you didn't have the conversation about how you work. You didn't have a conversation about how you were paid, and you didn't bring up the fact that you believe you should be working with them on an exclusive basis. They didn't screw you over. You screwed yourself over.
Fair enough.
And so how are we handling this is, I do not want to be naive or overly optimistic. I have a tendency to be overly optimistic. So something's going to change. There will be chaos, and we're going to have to figure it out. So it's not going to all be peaches and rainbows.
Yeah.
And I think that the people who are good will get better, and the people who are not will likely have to leave. And I think that any time in any industry, when I first got into real estate, there were 8,000, 9,000 agents in Chicago. Then it went up to 13. Then it went back down to 9. Now it's up to 19,000 agents in Chicago.
I think that, I'm sorry, but again, doing this as long as I have and doing this as long as you have, right? I don't know if you'll agree with me, but I think that if you're not willing to adapt or change or improve your value prop, and it means that you have to leave the industry, good. I'm sorry, this is a hard industry, and you're going to do a deal with an agent who doesn't know what they're doing, and it's extremely obvious, or they don't answer their phone, period, or they defer to their attorney on everything. They don't have an answer for the property. They don't have any context. It's unprofessional. it's like almost like using an attorney that isn't a real estate attorney, right? Like you have to walk them through everything and go, that's not how this works, right?
Here's a friend of a friend who is out of state and has an AOL email. Like there's no always I still get nervous when I see those, right? And so there's no more of like, okay, I'm gonna hire Uncle Bob just because he happens to have a real estate agent. Like this gets to be the moment. I remember in 2008 when I was like just getting into doing more sales and transitioning out of just doing full-time leasing, and we're waiting to get into a property and it's tenant occupied. Tenants were running 5 minutes behind. So we're having this moment where we're sitting with the listing agent, with the client on the sidewalk waiting. And he turned to me and was like, Joel, I've been doing this for 30 years and everything that I know about real estate has changed. And it was at that moment that I previously had how do I break into real estate? I'm too young and nobody's gonna work with me. And it was at that exact moment that I was like, I can do this because I am going to change faster than anyone. And guess what? I'm going to still, like, you can teach an old dog new tricks. I'm an old dog doing new tricks every single day.
Amen. That's actually why I think a lot of us enjoy this, is that my day is different every single day. I don't have complacency. You have to continue to adapt. Rules change, guidelines change, the way we do business changes, the market conditions, up, down, left, right. I mean, you have to be in front of that, and it's exciting. Embrace it head on, right? The good news is, my mentor taught me this. The good news is, it changed for everyone. It's not just you. You're not unlucky. Everyone is going to have this. So what are you going to do about it, right?
Well, and there's unfortunately, the good news is, like, I was with a group of buddies the other day, and actually some new people, and they were all asking me about it. And I was getting text messages from people like, what do you think about this? And this is like our chance to almost have like for someone to come to you as the source of opinion, because it's amazing how somebody shared a podcast with me yesterday, and the way it was being presented was like, the National Association of Realtors and real estate is like big tobacco lobbyists. And and there's so much information, misinformation, depending on even the tone and the way you have this conversation. And so just like if somebody said, oh, I'm not buying, like real estates are so high right now. How many real estate agents are like, I know real estates are high. Real estate interest rates are high. I'm flat out saying, no, they're not.
Right.
They're not high. In fact, do you know what the average real estate, average interest rate over the last 40 years is? It's 8.01%. The average interest rate for the last 40 years is 8.01%. Interest rates are not high. They're actually below average. But how many agents have been like, I know they're so high. Okay, just keep renting. They're not high. They're just no longer ridiculously artificially low.
I just had this conversation with a client that had reached out, and she flat out stated to me, she goes, I've been introduced to you, and I really appreciate you, but like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know if I want to continue renting. I've been renting for the last 10 years. And I went, okay, well, let's have this conversation. I go, how much is your rent? And I walked her through it. I showed her that she'd given up almost $400,000 over 10 years. And she goes, I know. And I said, well, okay, let's walk you through it. And I walked her through tax advantages. I walked her through appreciation. She goes, but my big concern is, what if I meet my someone and I want to move to the suburbs? And I said, okay, let me show you what that looks like. And I walked her through, what if it was like you meet this someone that's the love of your life and you're able to walk into that relationship with an asset as part of the relationship. You don't have to keep it. You could sell it, take the equity and use that as a partnership to go buy your place. Or I'm not asking, because I'm just saying that if you were to decide at some point to have children, if that's the path you decide to go, this could be an asset that if you wanted to be a landlord, you could rent it out, and this could be a gift to your child. Absolutely. Again, not requirement. I'm just throwing it out there just in case your life ever changes. And she, complete 180, went, whoa, rate was off the table, right? Market was off the table. Right. Then we launched into that. It was like, do you know how smart you are looking at real estate right now? Because here's what's going to happen. The Fed yesterday said we can see that there's going to be 3 decreases in rate, coming. Right? When the government flat out states it, that's when you know it's coming.
What if real estate is the least expensive it will ever be right now?
If you look at the history of prices of real estate, I'll admit it. I had no idea. If you look at the appreciation numbers and scale back, you don't even know 2008 that we had a problem, because it just did this, right? And some people go, well, that's a problem. Cool. Well, it's been going on since we started tracking, 1920 or whatever. I mean, it just does this. So yes, it's a long-term hold. If you're looking for a fix and flip or a short-term, yeah, totally, that's a different strategy and a different conversation. But if you're holding off on buying your first-time place because you think that you're going to wait for a lower price or a lower interest rate, what happens when they drop? Don't you think everybody else is coming to market? And we already have an inventory problem.
Don't you think? We know exactly that's what's happening. Exactly.
We know that when cost of money goes down, prices go up. On the same topic with NAR, right? I was having a conversation with an agent the other day, and it was a point that I didn't even think of, right? And this is probably going to piss some people off, but in the current environment, right, we're going to remove entirely, split commission. He brought up a really good point. So he goes, "Do you know what happens in commercial?" And I go, "No." I go, because we were talking about like, okay, maybe there's a separation of listing agent side and buyer's agent side. Maybe there's a listing agent that says, okay, my fee is 2% or 3%, right? And then the buyer shows up and goes, okay, but my buyer's agents are 2 or 3% or whatever it is. And there's a negotiation twice, right? There's a negotiation on the list price, there's a negotiation on the buyer's. Again, I'm making all that up because we don't know how this goes down, but that's one example. And he goes, "You know what happens in commercial?" He goes, "What happens if I show up to your property that is distressed, not selling, and it's been sitting on the market?" And I go, "My fee's 7%. I won't introduce you to my buyer. I'm not submitting an offer. But I want you to know that my fee is 7%. Go talk to your seller. What do you do?" And I went, "Oh shit, that's good. I didn't even think of that, because if it's not listed on the actual MLS listing and now it's a free-for-all, what happens?" Right?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. So this is the part. I think a good amount of this lawsuit and the litigation and whatever happens with the settlement will benefit some business practices. This is the part that the MLS previously was very clear. You get to participate in a single regulated, systematic, very clear, very cut, very dry. Here's the number. Here's who's paying who to what.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have your own paperwork. By participating in this MLS and showing this on the MLS, it's all good. Now, if you say, "I want to see these 5 properties," I was like, "Okay, Tim, but I don't know which of these 5 are paying, so I'll get back to you." Do I find this out now? Do I find this out later? Like, at what point, as a buyer, are going to go shopping and be like, "What is this actually going to cost me?" And then I have to go, instead of saying, "Okay, Tim, I'm going to go call these 5 and go schedule them." So do I have to ask if they're compensated or not? Not because, yes, I should know what I'm getting paid because that is my job. And you should know if you're going to be responsible for my fee or not.
Yeah.
So we now have already had this conversation that you may be responsible if the seller's not, and you know how much I'm charging. So that's going to be the benefit of this. And the con is, now do I have to go text everybody and be like, "What are you doing it?" And then I have to have this side. It's not going to be under the table. It has to be over the table. It's going to be this like Wild West of, am I texting you? Am I calling you? Am I going to have my own agreement? Is my office going to have an agreement? Are you going to sign it? Are you not going to sign it? It's like this whole Wild West.
There's so many questions. And like, this reminds me of the beginnings of Dodd-Frank, because Dodd-Frank was written by 2 people who had never touched a mortgage in their entire life. And we all went, cool. At face value, this sounds great. But what you don't know is this and this and this and this and this. And like, how do I logistically put this together? Because to follow this rule, do you know that this happens? My favorite is when they go, "Well, we'll just ask the lender for a credit." And my answer is always, okay, from where? Because that has to come from somewhere. It's not like we can just give up revenue, right? We have to stay open. And like, no, we're not making money hand over fist. I'm sorry to tell you, but the revenue on mortgages has gone to it's been a race to the bottom ever since Dodd-Frank, right? And so what realtors don't like is that we have to say like, yeah, no, we can't raise the rate higher to go get an additional credit. That's not going to work, right? So it has to come from somewhere. So it's going to create these negotiation tactics that yes, I do. I like the fact that we can get creative. Yeah, it's also a little scary, right?
Well, that is a conversation about how to finance it, but I want to be really, really clear here. And I've recorded a couple of videos on this because I think this is one of the most important things, because people are saying, "Oh, like now I have to charge my client the fee, or now the buyer has to pay." And like, I think that is the biggest problem with this all. The buyer has always been paying. So let's think about this. The whole conversation is, "Oh, I'm the seller. I don't want to have to pay the buyer's agent fee." Where's that money coming from in the first place? You have a buyer, a buyer's agent, a selling agent and a seller, the buyer is giving all the money to the seller is giving the money to the listing agent sharing it to the buyer's agent. Now, instead of going from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, it's just going from 1 to 4. It's always been coming from the buyer in the first place. So, dear agents, get this out of your friggin' head that now the buyer has to pay. They've always been paying. They just have been financing it, and now they just may have to pay out of pocket. And if a lender can't figure out how to get them to pay out of pocket, or low-income buyers can't get a certain percentage of credits to that, then we're going to have a whole segment of buyers who now it's going to cost them even more money. This is supposed to be helping everybody, and if there's not a way to communicate that this isn't a new fee, it's just changing hands in a different possible way. And now there's more unknown of who's paying and when. And now there's an unknown of how to secure it, because I now have to text you separately and come up with this whole side thing instead of having it very clear. This is supposed to be about transparency and consumer advocacy. And I actually feel like a big chunk of it is missing. And from the consumer side and from the agent side, let's remember this very key thing. Nobody's paying a new fee here.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think that it's going to ruin real estate, because I don't think we're going to let it. I think we're a community of very intelligent people that are very passionate about this industry. And as much as there's egos and numbers and award ceremonies and all of those things, at the core of this is a very good community of people who have to work together. No, listing agents aren't going to hoard listings. That's not a thing. Because guess what happens at that point? The buyers aren't going to show up, because you need the buyer's agent to bring their people to come see the property.
Still got to be an advocate for the seller.
They need somebody to stand out in the rain, handing out flyers, to assist, to get a hold of that small business owner, to develop a relationship, to build the sphere, to then, have that buyer who wasn't even thinking about that neighborhood, right? That's how real estate works. It's not this simplistic internet lead only environment where I Google something and I buy, right? You need people who have skill sets and a real serious passion for the industry and are out there night and day working their butts off.
Yeah, and I want to be really clear as well, like for the people who are scared to charge a fee or say, now I'm the one who has to charge, my buyer's agent, like, I think I'm worth it. Actually, let me restate that. I know I'm worth it. And in fact, I know I'm worth more than most, the 99% of other agents. And guess what? What I was charging on the buy side was the same as what we were charging at day one. I should be worth more now. Just like I charge more for my listings than I did on day one as well. So guess what? Now I get to set my own fee.
It's true.
I think this is going to be a beautiful thing for those who are worth it and those who deserve it. And we still have to offer more value than ever before. That's what we should always be doing.
Joel, you've been a wealth of knowledge, and I love that you've shared so much transparency, just blunt answers. And for anybody watching this, I hope that you feel the same. Would love, to expand on this further. Comment, reach out, whatever you need. We'd love to further this conversation with you. And honestly, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate
Likewise,
you, brother.
brother.
Thank you so much. We are so honored to work on this for you, and I just want you to know that your agent is fantastic. My name's Tim Brigham, and as we've been talking, I wanted to make sure to shine a light on who I am, a 20-year veteran in the mortgage space, and I'm honored to work on this for you. But more importantly, I want you to know about your agent. If you get a chance, he's been on my show, Coffees for Closers, and would challenge you to definitely check out what this man is about, and I think you'll really enjoy what he has to say. So thank you so much, and we're honored to help you with this.